Good evening, everybody. It's coming up for 20 to 7 here in the Scottish Borders. Going to get through this as quickly as possible because the wife is coming back shortly with the pizza. So that reminds me of the rally when we all congregated in the Baymont. After the rally, we all went off to the salvage yard, spent an hour there, photos, looking around Stephen's old trailer and garage, and wandered along the driveway, along various parts of Avery Road, and we saw that photograph of everybody by the Avery salvage yard sign, and then we all came back to the Baymont, where Mark had organised an after rally party, and it was very, very good. Then I must admit there was another after rally party at the rally house, and I've no idea what time in the morning that finished, but it was late. Okay, so here is an article that I came across this morning from what is known as the Due Process Institute, or as I'm sure the Americans say, due process, but here in the UK we would say the process. So, seeing as I'm on Crunch Island at the moment, but I'm in Scotland, due process it is, and I will just check as per usual, make sure that it's coming through as it should do. Yeah, that seems to be working fine. So here we go. Here's the article that I was highlighted to. So this is again, I'll leave the link below. Within this article there are a lot of links to other things. I particularly like, obviously, this picture of all the pillars here. So the Due Process Institute. Due Process Institute is a bipartisan non-profit that works to honour, preserve and restore principles of fairness in the criminal legal system. Wouldn't that be good? This mission of procedural fairness is a vital one given the erosion of these rights in recent decades. Importantly, due process concerns transcend liberal conservative labels, and therefore we focus on achievable results based on core principles and values that are shared by all Americans. Guided by a bipartisan board of directors and supported by bipartisan staff, we create and support achievable solutions for challenging criminal legal policy concerns through advocacy, litigation, and education. We are lawyers and lobbyists for the Constitution, working with an incredibly diverse coalition of lawmakers, public policy organizations, defenders, business leaders, the formerly incarcerated and their families, and the public to help bring more fairness to the criminal legal system. Raise non-verbal deeds, not words. It's time for action. So, want to join the fight? You can follow us on social media and etc. etc. Okay, so let's move on down to the actual bits that we're on about here. Our work. So, DPI supports introduction of bipartisan bill to increase police accountability, as tens of thousands of people take to the streets to demand justice and police accountability after the police killings of George Floyd in Minneapolis and Breonna Taylor in Louisville, we are reminded once again of the repeated failures of our criminal legal system to protect its own people, particularly Black Americans. The people are demanding justice from their government. Congress can answer by increasing police accountability through the bipartisan Ending Qualified Immunity Act introduced yesterday. Qualified immunity has seriously weakened a civil rights protection that was specifically enacted to protect Black Americans from governmental abuses of power. Of course, regardless of the history behind its enactment, that law protects us all. And the doctrine of qualified immunity takes away that right from victims, irrespective of our race. But the reality is that because our police focus so much of their most aggressive tactics and policies in Black neighborhoods, and that Black people are more likely to come into police-initiated contact than others, qualified immunity serves as one of many systemic injustices that currently disproportionately burden Black Americans. Our founder and president, Shana O'Toole, has written a blog explaining further why Due Process Institute supported the introduction of the bill and the reason why this civil rights protection needs to be immediately restored. With the understanding that this is only one of many needed structural changes necessary, we strongly endorse this act to restore remedies under federal civil rights law to victims who have suffered constitutional violations by law enforcement and other government agencies. We recommend Representatives Justin Amash and Ayanna Pressley for looking past their many differences to lead this important bipartisan bill forward in an effort to undo the court-created injustice of qualified immunity. DPI urges immediate passage of law to increase accountability for misconduct by federal prosecutors. June 3rd, 2020. During this time of national crisis, Due Process Institute is working hard to pass laws that would increase accountability of the people in our criminal legal system who wield so much power. As part of that effort, we urge the Senate to pass the bipartisan supported Inspector General Access Act of 2019, which has already passed the House of Representatives. Unlike most other federal agencies with inspectors general, the Department of Justice's Inspector General does not have the authority to investigate matters of alleged professional misconduct by its own attorneys, including prosecutors. Instead, investigations into a federal prosecutor's misconduct are handled by an internal process with no real independence from the attorneys it is investigating. While there are many well-documented instances of clear and egregious prosecutorial misconduct, these instances have been paired with relatively little accountability. Without meaningful independent oversight, there is little public accountability for Justice Department prosecutors who engage in reckless or willful misconduct, including the violation of constitutional rights. We urge the Senate to act quickly to pass this bill as a step toward restoring the public's faith in the rule of law. So I'm going to let you, as I say, leave the link, and you can click on all the various, read all the various letters, click on all the various links. We do actually get to see, there's a picture of Shana Tara O'Toole here. who has started this the Due Process Institute. So well worth going and having a look at that. Now then, what I also wanted to do was to share with you a couple of other things which I have lost, which I want quickly find again. The first one being, well, bizarre, I suppose. But obviously within the last few hours, several hours, see if I can bring this up for you. Here we go. It says here, interesting here. We know that now that the remains that were found in Chad Daybell's property are indeed those of children. But neighbour tipped off cops about large bonfires on Chad Daybell's property, which may have led to officers finding bodies of cult mum Laurie Vallow's missing children. So they had a large bonfire. Well, a couple of interesting thoughts there, aren't there? No. Let's bring this down now. Obviously, reference to a large bonfire has a certain resonance with our interest in justice for Stephen Brandon. This is proven to be particularly awkward, trying to get on with the next bit of the article. Okay. Let's see where if I can get that to come up. There we go. Okay. A neighbour's tip about. Oh, this is really starting to get silly. Okay, please just stay still, will you? A neighbour's tip about large bonfires on Chad Daybell's property may have led police to discover the bodies of cult mum Laurie Vallow's children in the backyard. Family members on Wednesday confirmed that the remains found buried outside Chad's home had been identified as 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow and 17-year-old Tylee Ryan, who disappeared in September. Obviously, a couple of interesting thoughts there. Point number one. If there's a suggestion that there were cremations of the children, because there is reports of the fact that they had been hidden there had been attempts to obscure the identities of the children in a horrifying way. Obviously, the suggestion being that their corpses were burnt in a bonfire. I think the neighbours would have smelt it, but also what's very interesting, that that was not enough to get rid of the bodies, that they then needed to be buried anyway. So as I say, I'm not sure if the connection between the bodies being buried and there being attempts at hide the facts of their presumed murder, what the connection is between the bonfire and the burying of these remains. As I say, it strikes one as being rather similar. I know it's kind of macabre, but what's going to be interesting is to find out what sort of state, what sort of condition the remains are, and then that will begin to even make the guilters see that there's no way Steven Avery could have disposed of the body of Teresa Holbach in a 3-hour bonfire on Halloween night. Certainly not to the extent where the cremains were as burnt and as crushed as they were. One other, it's quite disturbing, this one that I saw. And I think it's what I'd say about this is we get these guilters coming on and telling us how bad we are, how awful we are for supporting Stephen Brendan, and we're going to have a rally next Saturday. But we've got every right to be annoyed with the way that the state have handled Steven Avery and Brendan Dassey. But I think certainly as far as a group we are concerned, we are very, very well behaved, very well mannered. I was at the rally last year. When you look at the sort of thing that this woman was doing, Washington State woman arrested, accused of setting 5 police vehicles ablaze in George Floyd riots. So here we go. Here's the activist. A 25-year-old Tacoma woman was arrested Thursday for allegedly lighting 5 unmarked Seattle police vehicles on fire during riots at the end of last month. Margaret Aislinn Shannon faces federal arson charges in connection with the incident, according to the U.S. Attorney Brian Moran. This defendant was captured by multiple cameras using an accelerant lit like a blowtorch to start fires in 5 vehicles, Moran said in a statement. So obviously with that car, that's already been damaged quite a bit. So she's decided that she's going to make it worse. The alleged arsons happened on 30th of May around the area of 6th Avenue and Pine Street in downtown Seattle. Local police, abandoned the nearby East Precinct building at 12th Avenue and Pine Street earlier this week following violent protests that followed the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis on May the 25th. Demonstrators have moved into the surrounding neighborhood and declared it a cop-free area that they call the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. Seattle protesters declare cop-free zone after police leave precinct, but investigators with the Seattle Police Department, the FBI, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms saw Chanin in multiple videos taken in the area over a 2-day span from May 29th to the 30th. So again, it's interesting how the change of hair colour, as I often say about the 3 girls in my house, girls and their curls, forever changing their style and colour. If that's you, then you've been caught. Images included in the criminal complaint show a masked woman torching vehicles. A separate image shows a woman raising her hands across from police, and in tattoos on her knuckles are visible. Authorities said that the comparison of photos of the alleged arsonist on May 30 with photos of Chanin on May 29th matched features in other known photos of her from official documents and her social media accounts. So yeah, you've been caught, I'm afraid. But anyway, as I say, for me, what was interesting there was that, you know, for what the state are trying to do to Stephen Brendan, I think we as a group can feel equally aggrieved by what's happened to them and what is happening. But when we go to rally, we're there, yes, to highlight the case, but to be peaceful, to behave sensibly, and certainly that's what happened in Manitowoc. Anyway, that's really all I've got time for today. As I say, I'll leave the link to the 3 articles for you to have a look at your leisure, at your pleasure, and we'll catch you again soon. Bye for now.